special.
Hello!
Hello!
Welcome
Mason.
to...
Try that again.
Hello!
There we go. Welcome to We Float Wednesday.
We Float Wednesday?
We
Is that-
Float
That's
Wednesday. It is new.
We Float Wednesday. Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
pulling up our chat just in case.
And that's what we're calling our official Wednesdays. We had a little bit of change in the live schedule. It's at 4:30s and it's every other Wednesday now. So, yeah, just keep that. We'll post reminders about when we're doing live still, but that's the new schedule.
Everyone say a big hello to Emily. She is
Hello.
watching.
Hello!
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 She
Welcome.
says howdy doody.
Howdy
doody. So today
Whoa.
we're going to be talking about the differences,
What?
pros and cons of buying a float tank, building a float tank, or going to a float center so that you guys can know what would best suit your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And
You know, I'm going to point this out. I had somebody tell me this, that they didn't like when we didn't actually say our name, so...
oh,
Yeah. And
Oh,
it's available
okay.
for that.
I get that. I'll start.
Go ahead.
My name is Mason.
hello.
I'm not.
Hello, Mason. What's your sign?
I don't know.
Oh.
Oh.
Hello, my name is Mason and I'm a floater.
I'm Monique or Mo.
And I'm Adam. Giles. Nice to...
I'm glad you jumped in there because I didn't know where I was going with that.
Oh, boy.
All right,
yeah.
so...
In case you haven't met us, this is part of the crew.
Quick shout out to Aaron Wolf.
Aaron.
Wolf! Hi!
Oh,
Ow!
that's Jamie's Aaron.
That is
believe.
Jamie's Aaron.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Aaron.
What's up,
He's
dude?
a Zen float team member.
He's a big
Loves our
floater.
t-shirts.
Yeah, he's part of the crew.
Oh, yay! That's awesome. Aaron, I know for a while there, he was floating all the time. Like, I don't know, like every other day or something, or every day.
Yeah, Jamie said he was floating a lot right now.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So, yeah, I guess we can go ahead and get into it.
Yeah.
So, float center, that's what I'm going to be talking about. Float centers are great. They have a really nice space. It's like, it really feels like a spa when you walk into it. It's very calming. They'll be playing soothing music. Sometimes they'll have running water. Some spaces will offer you tea or have a meditation room. So it's nice to go there because, like, I practice yoga, and it's easier for me to practice yoga in a studio than at home, just because I walk into a calm space so I can relax a lot quicker. So it's nice to have a space that's kind of dedicated towards floating and things like that. And also, if you're brand new to floating and you don't really know how much you like it or what the benefits are for you, then that's a great option to just go and try it out a few times and see, what it does for your life. On the flip side, though, float centers, depending how often you float, some people need to float every single day for pain management. And if you have to float that often, it can become really expensive. So if you, just depending on how much you float centers are a great place just because they provide that space. And if you are new to floating, they can kind of teach you like tips and tricks, and you'll meet other floaters and kind of have that community, which is awesome at the beginning when you're starting anything out, because they just will have so much insight for you.
Totally.
So those are good things about floating, or float centers. And it's just depending on how often you float, if it would be suitable to your lifestyle and to your budget.
I agree. I also think that people at float centers do a good job of calming your nerves, because you're going to be nervous the first time. It's sort of a weird thing to just go out and do. So they really help you relax and just kind of get into it, and then just kind of guide you through it. So I wouldn't recommend starting out with any of the other options we talk about. I would just start with a center for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, period. Just float in general, yes. I mean, I do have a lot of people that have never floated before that still actually get their tent and start doing it, So I wouldn't say don't do that, but, float centers are definitely a great place to start if you have one nearby you. So
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's accessible to you, they're popping up more and more. So pretty much in like most major cities now.
There's over 400.
Oh wow,
Wow.
there's over 400 float centers.
Yeah. I think they were just in the double digits when we started. I think there were like 70 or 75.
Oh wow.
So
Yeah.
Last year, this time, there were just under 300.
yeah,
So,
it's booming.
everyone say hi to Randall really quick.
hey
Randall!
Randall, how you doing, buddy?
I won't.
So, I refuse.
Hello, Randall.
Randall is another Zen Float Co. team member. He's actually up in Park City right now.
What's up, Randall?
Sup. Also, I wanted to mention we have on our website a flotation calculator, and you can type in how often you go to a float center, and it'll tell you how much money you'll spend in a year and how much time you'll spend driving to a float center in a year. So that's an awesome way to calculate like your time and your budget, and if it would be worth buying or better to stay at a float center.
Makes sense.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's on our website. We'll link it in the comments later, but
We'll link it up.
link it up.
My turn?
Your
All
turn,
right,
mate.
Mason.
All right, so for me, I'm talking about DIY because there is sort of an underground floating scene of DIYers that like to build their own tanks. Some of the pros are, I mean, it's becoming more and more of a hassle the further along the industry gets because technology is improving and people like us are improving. So, but if you're going to stick to that route, I would say the cons would be, or the pros would be, you can fully customize the size, the shape, the color, things like that. The material you use, you can definitely customize those sorts of things. I don't know if there's much more than that. The cost, a lot of people think, or there's a big misconception that DIY is cheaper, but in the long run, after you source the parts, unless you know somebody, if somebody has like a pool or a spa company, then it might be cheaper. But if you're just sourcing the parts by yourself, it can start to add up pretty quick, especially with the salt. So the cost isn't really there, and then you have to come up with the plans yourself, or you have to find the plans online. I know that Shane still has some plans online if that's something you're interested in. I can't remember. Is it?
It's isolationtankplans.com.
Yeah, isolationtankplans.com. It's his plan. So the way that Zen was kind of started, or the way Zen came about, was Shane. He wanted a float tank at home, but he didn't know what to do, so he built his own. And then he quickly realized that wasn't efficient. So he started looking into more cost-effective tanks that you could have at home. So
I actually just got off the phone with a gentleman this week that I can't recall if he actually got a tent yet, but he is planning, if he hadn't, to get a tent. And he built one. He built one based off of Shane's specs just a couple years ago, and just because of what it was a pain in the butt, and he has already gotten rid of it. So
wow.
And it's Shane had on that website. You can see all the plans. He has all of his receipts, and it ends up costing more to build at home than to buy one. But like Mason said, if you're depending on where you get the parts, if you have to source them all yourself, but.
I mean, people think they can just get some wood and some PVC and
throw
then
it
it's
all
there.
together.
But when you start looking into it, it's like, oh man, the costs start to add up. And I think Shane actually used, for his tank part, he actually used a fertilizer barrel
Yeah.
that he just cut in half and then put hinges on.
I remember he had to go to a farmer and ask him, I need a fertilizer tank that can hold a human body. Which was
You want to avoid
kind
that
of-
awkward
yeah.
conversation.
No one needs to have that conversation. Yeah.
Let me read these comments real quick because I think I see something.
We did get a hello from Matthew Johnson. What's up, Millennial
Hey.
Mason?
what's up, Matthew?
He was talking to
Hey,
me.
hey.
Hello, Matthew.
I got you.
Okay.
And then the other one's just Randall, so.
All right. Yeah. Moving on to the float tent. Why you should float at home. I mean, come on, why not? Number one, I mean, just as she was already mentioning it, in the long run, it does end up being a lot cheaper. If you're truly looking to build a practice, clearly doing it from home is key. You know, if you're only looking to do it, you know, a couple times a month, great, go to a float center nearby you. But if you're actually really looking to get significant benefits out of this, like she said, pain, or just any of the benefits, you know, you're going to reap a lot more of those benefits when you're able to do it more consistently from home, period. So, and you can float clearly whenever, you know, that's the thing about it. You can actually build a real practice at that point. You can figure out what time of day is the best day for you, or best time of day, which days of the week, of course, how many times a week that you want to do it, how long of a float you actually want to do. You can start playing with it. You know, a lot of people like the complete sensory deprivation, clearly, but a lot of people like to listen to meditation music. Some people I've seen learn new languages in weeks with it, so you can listen to that. So you can break it up, you know, have a full sensory deprivation section or float one day. The next day you're listening to a book at 5 times the speed and still absorbing the information. You know, other days you're listening to meditation music. You know, whatever it is, you can break it up and really expand your float experience, your practice at that point. So, and then again, in the long run, it's going to be cheaper, especially for those that are on any type of medications, or they want to break vices. By doing it more, you're going to, you know, not have to. I'm not going to say that they can. Some people have cut, if not completely stopped, their medications. You know, I'm not going to say that that is going to happen, but it is something with continuous use that you have a much better chance of doing so, which cuts back on the cost there. Cuts back on. I had a gentleman that actually started floating because he wanted to stop smoking, and that led to, yes, he stopped smoking, but he also stopped drinking. On top of, he started eating healthier. So, you know, he's cutting that money out of his pocket. So in the long run, not just the time and effort going there that you're saving and the money that you're spending and paying a facility at that point, but there's a lot of other aspects that you have to think about when you talk about floating from home and what it's going to save you in the long run. And then, let's see. Again, you're saving time, clearly. Me, I love float centers, period, but I prefer to float at home in water that I've floated in, as opposed to, you know, a lot
it
of
all
other
gets
people.
clean.
It does. Yeah, I'm sure it gets
that's a
clean. It's
preference.
my own. I have my own.
Doesn't
It's my
use
OCD
mine.
talking. Float centers are perfectly safe. It's just my own personal issues. So
One thing that we don't talk about very much is like you have the ability to sleep in the tank.
yes.
Oh,
For longer
that's
periods.
Yeah,
true.
people love to spend long, and actually that's when, number one, okay, a lot of float centers, I talk to people and they say they go for 30 minutes or an hour. Not enough time for the most part. I mean, if you think that you can really get that in, great, but most people are going to shoot for a 2-hour mark, which it's going to be a lot more expensive to do that at a facility. You're taking a lot more time. I've had people drive hours just to go to the float center, so that's a whole day that they're taking in order to do something like that. Where if you're able to hit 2 hours, that's the mark. That's the real floaters really want to hit that 2-hour mark, because the first hour is like really relaxing into that meditative state, and the next hour is bliss. So when you're able to go to 4 hours, imagine that at that point. You know, I have talked to people that do sleep in them at night as well, and they sleep, you know, only X amount of time. Like say they spend 5 hours in there, and that's plenty of time. They don't need 8 hours to sleep at that point. So there is a lot of benefits to actually doing it from home. And then you're able to build your own environment. You're secure, you're safe at that point. You know, your room is your temple, wherever you have your tent. Even if it's in your living room, okay? It doesn't matter.
That's where his is at.
Yeah, so
In his living
it
room.
doesn't matter. It's still your environment, which is a little bit more relaxing, I feel, and allows you to get more out of it.
Makes sense.
You're not rushed. You know, you don't have the light clicking on in an hour, like some people say they have.
I've had people knock on it.
Yeah, having people
Oh,
knock on the
really?
Yeah,
door.
for sure.
Yeah, so things
Huh.
like that. Let's see. You know, the only con, you know, you're having to take care of your own water at that point, which I'm going to just say this now. People, if you're looking at old videos on YouTube from our first generation, there's a gentleman on there that talks about our tents being high in maintenance. They're really not. You're talking an average of 10 minutes a week. Yes, you're all putting that time in, but it's really not that big of a deal. You're checking your hydrogen peroxide, your pH levels, you're wiping down the walls every other week, spraying with some 3% hydrogen peroxide. Rinse your filter bag out once a month and replace it every 3 to 4. That's all you're really doing. You know, you're talking an average of 10 minutes a week. You know, you are doing yourself, but it's not that big of a deal.
Unless you let it go, then it's hours.
Yeah, then it's
Oh,
hours.
yeah.
Don't let it go.
Do not.
Shane had at his old house had a hot tub and a float tent there, And he said the hot tub was way more maintenance than the float tent ever was. And, like, we have a float tent here, and, yeah, like Adam said, it really is 10 minutes a week, maybe.
Yeah.
It's simple. It's easy.
You just go in there, dunk a test strip, and
Yeah.
adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Self-explanatory.
We do have a good question.
Yes.
It's going to kind of come. If we can get all three of your opinions. This comes from Matthew Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep the tent air warm? He said he wanted to try a space heater in the vent, maybe to blow heat in.
Okay.
Oh.
But I too, I'm like Matthew. I want a little warmer. I like the warmer environment.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, the air is going to stay warm inside the tent just because, you know, it's an enclosed environment. You have the water that's already 93.5 degrees, so it's going to stay close to that. You know, unless you have some crap, like air, it's really cold outside the tent, then you might feel a little bit on your chest. So yeah, that's when it comes down to making sure that your room's a little bit warmer. And if you want to just point a space heater at it, then great, go for it if you wanted to do something like that. But really, at the end of the day, it as long as your room's not lower than 65 degrees, it's not going to be that cold inside
Yeah.
there.
I mean, my go-to is always if it's too cold in the tent, the air, just increase the room temperature a degree or two, and just go from there. If it's still too cold, then just keep adjusting, or try a space heater in the room.
I also think having people put something over the top of their tent to kind of just keep it a little bit more insulated. I think I've
Yeah.
seen that, like laying blankets over the top just so it's the heat from the water does just stay in a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
While
if the air is cold, then it's just proof that
Or
the
not.
heat is coming out.
Just I'm not sure while they're in or not. Just put it on top.
I have a blanket over mine when I'm not using it. There's a blanket over mine just because it helps keep the heat in, helps keep the cost down a little bit. There are ways of insulating the tent as well that are incredibly cheap. That would probably even help with the air inside the tent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. So space heater, adjust room temperature slightly,
or insulating the tent.
insulating, putting something over the top.
I'd be curious to see, Matthew, what your water temperature is at, just for my own information.
Yeah.
If it's at
Yeah.
96 degrees and the room is or the air is too cold, maybe the water is too cold. Maybe you like it a
96.
little bit warmer. Oh.
Maybe,
96
I'd turn mine up to 90, like 94.4.
So you like it
just-
cooler?
That's hot.
No,
93.5
93.5
is the skin temperature.
Okay, yeah. So you like it almost like half a degree warmer.
Yeah, a little bit warmer because it makes the air a little bit warmer, and it actually warms my body up just a tad to where it feels better.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm a warm floater. I like it. Me and Will, who float down here, like it a little bit on the warmer side. I think you and Shane
I like it
on
cooler.
the cooler side. So it just is like maybe you run cold as a person, like you get cold easily, and so you can try adjusting the water a little bit, and that might help the air temperature.
I just find that I get uncomfortable quicker when it's warm.
Oh.
Matthew says he's got a bigger bedroom and his water is at 94.5.
Oh, wow.
So he runs
So-
it a little bit warmer.
So
He's
maybe
got a bigger
insulation
room.
would work. I'd recommend insulation before I would a space heater.
I mean, also one thing to think about is if it's a big room and you've got windows, that might let some cool air in or some hot air out. So
Yeah.
that's something to think about. You need to insulate your window in the room.
Insulation, then, because if it's in a big room, would probably help.
Hmm.
Or space heater.
Yeah, I mean there are a few things you could try out
Um,
for sure.
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it depends, and we'd be happy to, discuss this more with you, Matthew. If you wanted to reach out to us, I could chat with you a little bit about it as well. So,
Yeah.
see if we can help you figure something out for sure.
It's adam@zenfloatco.com.
Well, he already owns a tank, so it's probably.
Oh, yeah. You probably, or Mason
Oh yeah,
at zenfloatco. Either way.
or just call the office.
Get one of
So,
those.
all right, now we're rambling on.
So, yeah.
We never do that.
Never.
we never
We're
ramble.
not ramblers.
I think that's pretty much it on my end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that. So I guess it's mostly comes down to just lifestyle and how often you're going to be floating.
Mm-hmm. What
Yeah.
you're doing it for, how much you really want to get out of it,
Yeah.
how much time you have. People talk about them. Oh, I'm too busy to go float, and then they start asking me about building their own. Okay.
No.
You can't go float, but you want to build your own. And you know, it comes down to just, I mean, the world's about convenience now. So that's what this is about. It's just convenience in your own home. Or in the end, like we said, float in general, just period.
Yeah,
just go
float.
float. Doesn't matter if it's with us or if it's at a float center. Just get it in your life, you know, and you'll figure out what you really want to do
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah. I mean, DIY has a place for certain people, but I recommend trying the other avenues first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
So yeah.
that's about it. Have a great day.
Thanks
See you next week.
for stopping by. We'll see you
See you
next
guys.
time at Zen Corner.
Okay.
We Float Wednesday.
Zen Corner.